It's a new year and we're all looking forward to successful endeavors. It could be success in love, it could be success in life. But one thing I bet everybody is looking forward to is success in business, success with your finances. You didn't get it right last year or the year before that, and it's okay, your secret's safe with me. But to make sure that you get it right this year, we're joined by life coach Shannon Muruli, who's gonna help us walk that journey because she's been there, she's done that, and she's checking out that success with a capital S. Let's live out loud with this wonderful lady next. Hello and welcome to Sheila Lives Out Loud. Thank you for catching up with us, and remember to subscribe to this channel. You can always click on notifications. In fact, I'm hoping that you do, so you never get to miss an episode of the show. We are living out loud at the glorious Westwood Hotel, and today it's all about financial success. It's a new year, new plans, new things. Let's get that success that you and I know we've been working so hard to get. And who's going to help us walk that path? A lovely lady called Shannon Muruli. Good evening, as you can see.
Yes, good evening. It's such a pleasure to be here, Sheila.
And it is so wonderful to have you here. Now, about almost everybody who's watching doesn't know who's Shannon Muruli. Should I know Shannon Rice? So, in a nutshell, who's Sharon?
Well, Shannon Muruli, she is a woman who actually lives in the U.S. I'm from Dallas, Texas. And I'm just excited to be here. The Westlands, Kenya is just an amazing place to visit. I'm married to Robert Muruli, who happens to be here from Nairobi, Kenya. So it's just a pleasure to see where he was born and raised and to experience all the beauty. But beyond that, I am a woman who attended Florida A&M University, received my bachelor's in psychology and master's in public health. And I've always had this interest in learning how and why we all do what we do, especially when it comes to our mind and then having the courage to live out the dreams that I believe that the Creator has given to us. And so with that path, I decided to pay attention to my own journey. I've had a lot of things that I've wanted to do in my 20s and now I would say in my late 20s. But I was afraid. I was afraid most of the time. And I would look at people that I admired and looked at people who had success in the industries that I wanted to go into. And I would always think, well, gosh, I can do exactly what they're doing. I could get out there and I could see how they're able to achieve the success, but why am I not able to do that? And so that made me refer back to my studies, my psychology, and learning more about the mind and what creates this amount of fear that holds us back from living out loud, living out our purpose.
There we go, and that's the name of the show.
Yes.
Live Out Loud, really.
Absolutely, and so that's why I'm excited to be here today, because I believe that there are so many women out there who want to live out loud, who want to live their purpose and their dreams out loud, but there is a part of them that holds them back. And we all know that, yes, it can be, financial, or it can be where you're from, or, having to do with your environment, but most of the time it has to do with our thinking and that irrational fear that takes place inside of that. So going back to my story, that was me for 20 plus years. My biggest fear was the fear of public speaking, and I knew that was a part of how the Creator wanted me to share my message with the world. But I was held back because of that fear, and so that held me back from reaching those women who I knew I was put on earth to serve. So fear is a major thing. I think it's the number one thing that holds everyone back from living out loud. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, to hopefully, if a woman is experiencing that, I believe that if she has that kind of fear, not only is it holding her back, but it's her family, financially, because I believe that when you set one woman up to succeed, it sets up an entire village, it sets up an entire community. And so that's what we're going to focus on today here.
Very well said. I don't even know where I'm going to start asking these questions from, but I believe that they're going to come through anyway.
Absolutely.
Now, sitting with you and knowing that, yes, you've come from a developed country, there's certain things that you do have in common with women in Kenya, because number one, you're a woman, and it doesn't matter where you go across the world, the position of the woman vis-a-vis the man is still one of those where we're still going up the hill. Yeah. We're not quite where we should be, and we know what it's like to have to work harder, to have different expectations. Because if I'm going to go for a position and I apply for it, chances are whoever's going to put that ad out or who is looking for somebody is going to give a lot more airtime and will be demanding a lot more from me than from a male counterpart who would be applying for the same job and maybe has less experience. I've experienced it myself. I've lost out on positions to people not because of experience or anything else, but simply because of the gender.
Yes.
Being a woman, from the get-go, you are going to have to work harder.
Yes.
Let's start there.
Yes. Well, I believe that that is something true that's happening universally, no matter what country or place you live in. I think that there's still a challenge that is happening with seeing women break into male-dominated type industries, especially when it comes to business. Although we are seeing a rise in women starting their businesses, it's still a challenge because I think more than anything, it's the woman actually seeing herself successful in those industries, and I think that's where it starts. One of my mentors a few years ago started the largest modular construction company in the U.S. And that, even though I wasn't, into construction, what was very appealing to me was here it was an African-American woman who was leading in a male-dominated industry. And when I asked her the question, how were you able to do that? She said, well, I believed in myself. I believed in my abilities. And she said she used her fears to fuel her. There was a lot of occasions where she walked into the room and she was the only woman in the building, but she used that to her advantage. She brought all of her femininity, she brought all of her difference to the table, and even though she was afraid, she decided to do it afraid because she knew that her difference was going to be something that no one else in the room could bring, being that she was a woman. So I believe that first it starts with believing in your abilities and your capabilities. For two, just knowing that your difference is what sets you apart. Right? It's not that it excludes you, but it sets you apart from what the male can do in that particular industry. So I believe that it starts with belief and developing your craft, honing your skills, getting better day by day, looking at what the males are doing and seeing how you can do it a lot different or even better. I know Hillary Clinton just vied for the position of presidency in the U.S. And one of the biggest things, whether you voted for her or not, that a lot of the women did just respond to well was just her courage to step up on a platform like that, being that she was the first to actually get to that level in the presidency. And so I think just seeing more women actually stepping up to the plate to take those roles in a male-dominated industry will unconsciously give other women permission to do the same. Because I know that when males are offered a position, most of the time it's because it's familiar. Right? It's familiar. They've seen another man do it. But when a woman steps in and they don't see it done that much, it's like, should we give her a chance? I don't know. But more women who have the courage to step up and actually live out loud, live their purpose out loud, show their capabilities to the world, I believe that's when we'll start to see a bit of more changes.
Right. Speaking as a woman and seeing the experience here, I can't help but think about something that a friend and I were discussing about 3 months back. And we were talking about the need for affirmation and for validation.
Yeah.
Many times men will pick up tasks or positions, whether they're qualified or not.
Yes.
He's going to walk in there and say, yes, I can do this.
Yes.
He probably has no idea what that position is. But as a woman, we're thinking, no, I need to discuss this with someone because maybe a part of me thinks I can do it because I was able to do something like this, but I need somebody to speak to me and affirm that, yes, you can do this, and okay, I'm now going for it, and here you go.
Absolutely.
That sets us back, doesn't it?
That holds us back big time. Waiting for, I saw a quote out on social media somewhere that the woman who does not need validation is the most feared woman on earth. And I believe that it's absolutely true. And I would take it a step further. The woman who does not need to sit around and wait to be encouraged, but to show up and show her courage is the most feared woman on earth. And I believe that, again, when we can see more women do that and not put ourselves in a position where we have to wait for someone to affirm our capabilities. And I also believe that the Creator gave us such an amazing purpose, an amazing dream that maybe, just maybe, no one has ever done it before. So if we're waiting for someone to show us the path or show us the, give us the go ahead or the green light, we'll be waiting forever because no one can do what you are doing. No one can do what I'm doing. It's all special. And if we decide to go that route of not waiting for validation, we'll have to rival no one.
Right.
No one.
Finances and the sciences. For the longest time, it's always been assumed that women gravitate towards the arts, gravitate towards simpler business models, things like a hair salon or clothing industry. But when it comes to construction or you're thinking big projects,
big business,
that these are set aside for men.
Cracking that mold. If you're a woman, you're a young woman, or maybe you're an advanced woman, you're advanced a little bit in age, and you're thinking, but I still think this is where I belong. Breaking those barriers and knowing that this is what's holding you back. Where do you begin and how do you push through?
Well, I think it begins in identifying, again, going back to your difference. You know, looking at the industry and saying, okay, yes, this is IT, or yes, this is engineering, but where can I bring in my difference? Really learning what that is and really honing in on that. And what I mean by honing in is self-assessment. You know, self-assessment, I think that goes unnoticed or unrecognized. And so when we don't self-assess and look at, okay, I'm able to do this, and you know, this is what's going to set me apart, that keeps us in the same category as everyone else. We're not standing out in any way. So I believe that self-assessment is a big one. I believe in getting with someone who actually is doing what it is that you're possibly wanting to do, if that's possible. Getting some mentorship. It doesn't have to always be in person. You can get mentored by way of a book. You can get mentored by way of a YouTube channel, or finding someone online that you can really study, you know, some of the skills that they've developed. Not what they've done, but just look at some of the skills that they've developed and say, that is something that I want to get better at. Okay, how did they do this? Reach out to them and ask, you know, what are some courses or what are some things that they may recommend, just so you can, again, do the self-assessment and build yourself to become stronger in that particular area.
Failure. Everybody's afraid of failure.
Yes.
There are two things that keep us from going and being where we should be.
Absolutely.
The fear of getting there. You think somewhere along the way you actually won't get there. And then there's the fear of failure.
Yeah.
Because again, I could be sitting here thinking this is what I was designed to do, and I'm going to do, and it doesn't really give me what I was looking for. Defining failure and not being afraid of it, those are two different things. So let's start with defining failure and why failure is not necessarily the worst of things that can happen to you.
Well, you know, failure has become one of my best friends, absolutely, because I believe that the number of times that I failed have always had a lesson attached to it. And that lesson has allowed me to stretch and to grow and to become better at what it is that I've wanted to do, or better yet, maybe just pivot just a little bit to go in a different direction. So I believe that there is no failure. There's just only lessons that we learn, courageous lessons that we learn along the way. Now, I believe that people fear failure because of what other people will think about them. I think that's where that comes from, and a lot of it has to do with criticism. But what I want to say about criticism is that it's simply inevitable. I think, I forget the man's name, but the quote was, if you want to not be criticized, say nothing and do nothing. That's all you need to do. But if you are a woman who is enterprising, aspiring, you've got to know that failure is going to happen. You are going to be criticized. It's a part of the process. Don't be afraid of it, and instead just embrace it, because there's a lesson in all of those struggling moments.
Continue with this story in part 2.